GFCI protection for Whirlpool tubs is essential for electrical safety. According to electrical codes, Whirlpool tubs have specific requirements for ground fault circuit interrupter protection. If the Whirlpool tub is the only device on the circuit and the circuit breaker is located in a readily accessible location, a GFCI circuit breaker is an acceptable method of protection. This means that the circuit breaker itself is designed to detect ground faults and interrupt the circuit, preventing electrical shock hazards. This is one option, and it can be used if the circuit has no other things connected to it and the circuit breaker is easy to get to. The readily accessible location is important because it ensures that the breaker can be easily reached and reset if it trips. On the other hand, if any other devices are on the circuit, the Whirlpool tub must be protected by a GFCI receptacle. In this case, the GFCI protection is provided by a receptacle rather than the circuit breaker. This is a common approach when the circuit serves multiple outlets or devices. The GFCI receptacle can be connected to any circuit that has GFCI protection already in place. This allows for flexibility in wiring and ensures that the Whirlpool tub is properly protected. If you are wiring a new GFCI receptacle for the Whirlpool tub, it can be wired to any general circuit already under GFCI protection. However, it is never acceptable to connect the Whirlpool tub to a GFCI receptacle on a different circuit. Doing so can create a dangerous situation, as the two circuits may not be properly coordinated and a ground fault could occur without being detected. It is a common mistake to assume that all circuits are created equal. Each circuit in your home serves a very specific purpose, and you could overload the systems if you improperly install your GFCI. If a circuit is overloaded, it may also cause issues. The NEC requires GFCI protection in bathrooms for receptacles serving countertop surfaces. This requirement extends to Whirlpool tubs to protect users from electrical shock hazards while using the tub. The GFCI protection is required to be readily accessible and is intended to protect the user from electrical shock. By installing a GFCI breaker or receptacle, you can help ensure that you and your family are protected from electrical hazards while using the Whirlpool tub. Ground fault circuit interrupters work by monitoring the current flowing through a circuit. If there is a difference of just a few milliamperes between the current flowing into the circuit and the current flowing out, the GFCI will trip and interrupt the circuit. This small difference in current indicates that a ground fault is occurring, meaning that electricity is leaking to ground. Ground faults can be caused by a variety of factors, such as damaged wiring, wet conditions, or faulty appliances. The GFCI protection is designed to detect these ground faults and interrupt the circuit before they can cause an electrical shock. When it comes to GFCI protection for Whirlpool tubs, it's important to understand the different options available and choose the one that is most appropriate for your situation. If you are unsure about the requirements for GFCI protection, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrician. They can help you determine the best way to protect your Whirlpool tub and ensure that your electrical system is safe and up to code. One of the key considerations is whether the Whirlpool tub is on a dedicated circuit. A dedicated circuit is a circuit that serves only one appliance or device. In the case of a Whirlpool tub, a dedicated circuit would mean that the tub is the only thing connected to that circuit. If the Whirlpool tub is on a dedicated circuit, then a GFCI circuit breaker is an acceptable method of protection. This is because the circuit breaker is able to monitor the entire circuit for ground faults and interrupt the circuit if one is detected. The GFCI circuit breaker is installed in the main electrical panel and provides protection for the entire circuit. However, if the Whirlpool tub is not on a dedicated circuit, then a GFCI receptacle must be used. This is because the GFCI receptacle is able to provide localized protection for the tub, even if other devices are connected to the same circuit. The GFCI receptacle is installed in the bathroom near the tub and provides protection only for the tub. It is important to note that the GFCI receptacle must be readily accessible, meaning that it must be easily reached and reset if it trips. The GFCI receptacle is a common and reliable way to protect a Whirlpool tub that shares a circuit with other devices. The location of the circuit breaker is another important factor to consider when choosing a GFCI protection method. If the circuit breaker is located in a readily accessible location, then a GFCI circuit breaker is an acceptable method of protection. This is because the breaker can be easily reached and reset if it trips. However, if the circuit breaker is not located in a readily accessible location, then a GFCI receptacle must be used. This is because the receptacle provides localized protection for the tub, even if the breaker is not easily accessible. The readily accessible location of the circuit breaker is a safety consideration. You don't want to have to go into an attic or crawl space to reset the breaker if it trips. One common question is whether it is acceptable to connect the Whirlpool tub to a GFCI receptacle on a different circuit. The answer is no. It is not acceptable to connect the Whirlpool tub to a GFCI receptacle on a different circuit. Doing so can create a dangerous situation, as the two circuits may not be properly coordinated and a ground fault could occur without being detected. Each circuit should be protected independently. Trying to share GFCI protection between circuits can compromise the safety of the system. It is important to remember that the primary goal of GFCI protection is to prevent electrical shock hazards. By following the proper guidelines and requirements, you can help ensure that your Whirlpool tub is properly protected and that you and your family are safe from electrical hazards. When you are installing or inspecting a Whirlpool tub, there are a few key things to look for. Firstly, ensure that the tub is properly grounded. Grounding provides a path for electricity to flow back to the source in the event of a fault, helping to prevent electrical shock. Secondly, check that the GFCI protection is in place and functioning properly. You can test the GFCI protection by pressing the test button on the receptacle or circuit breaker. If the GFCI protection is working properly, it will trip and interrupt the circuit. Thirdly, verify that the wiring is in good condition and that there are no signs of damage or wear. Damaged wiring can create a shock hazard and should be repaired or replaced immediately. Fourthly, make sure that all electrical connections are tight and secure. Loose connections can cause overheating and create a fire hazard. Fifthly, check that the Whirlpool tub is properly installed according to the manufacturer's instructions. Improper installation can lead to a variety of problems, including electrical hazards. The NEC addresses GFCI protection for Whirlpool tubs in Article 680.70. This section of the code provides specific requirements for GFCI protection and other safety measures. Some of the key requirements include GFCI protection for all receptacles within 6 feet of the inside edge of the tub, GFCI protection for the pump and other electrical equipment associated with the tub, and bonding requirements for the metal parts of the tub. The NEC also requires that all electrical work be performed by a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician has the knowledge and experience to safely install and maintain electrical systems. When you are working with electricity, it is always important to take precautions to protect yourself from electrical shock. Firstly, always turn off the power to the circuit before working on any electrical components. Secondly, use insulated tools and equipment. Thirdly, wear rubber gloves and shoes. Fourthly, never work in wet conditions. Fifthly, be aware of your surroundings and avoid contact with any metal objects that could be energized. In addition to GFCI protection, there are other safety measures that you can take to protect yourself from electrical shock hazards while using a Whirlpool tub. Firstly, never use electrical appliances or devices near the tub. Secondly, keep the tub clean and free of debris. Thirdly, have the tub inspected regularly by a qualified electrician. Fourthly, follow the manufacturer's instructions for using the tub. The GFCI protection is only one part of a comprehensive safety plan. By taking these precautions, you can help ensure that you and your family are safe from electrical hazards while using the Whirlpool tub. If you have any questions or concerns about GFCI protection or electrical safety, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrician. They can provide you with the information and guidance you need to make informed decisions about your electrical system. The electrical codes are constantly evolving to keep up with new technologies and safety concerns. It is important to stay up to date on the latest codes and requirements to ensure that your electrical system is safe and compliant. You can find information on the latest codes and requirements from your local building department or from the NEC. The NEC is a comprehensive set of electrical safety standards that is updated every 3 years. It is a valuable resource for electricians, contractors, and homeowners. It provides detailed information on a wide range of electrical topics, including GFCI protection, wiring methods, and equipment installation. The GFCI protection requirements for Whirlpool tubs are designed to protect users from electrical shock hazards. By following the proper guidelines and requirements, you can help ensure that your Whirlpool tub is properly protected and that you and your family are safe from electrical hazards.